episode number 2 of the Hello Road podcast. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Paul.
If you're new, which you probably are since this is only episode 2, welcome. On this podcast, we'll discuss forgotten cars, hidden local places of interest, our most recent automotive adventures, and other fun things we like to talk about. So, let's dive in. What's going on with you, Paul?
Oh, well, kind of a good couple things going on over here. I've got this really fun thing in the back of my mind about what car to buy next. There's a funny story involving that, but
Okay.
we can get to that a little bit later. So
All right.
that's wearing on my mind.
But aren't we always thinking about what car to buy next?
Oh yeah, totally. I
Yeah.
mean, like you were saying in the episode 1, which everybody needs to go listen to,
Yep.
is used to stay up with like the Craigslist ads up on all the tabs open on your computer.
Yep.
It's kind of the same thing over here, except for I'm using my phone, and so
Okay.
I'll wake up to like let the dog out, and it's like, oh, hold on, let's check and see if anything new popped up. So
Within the last 5 minutes.
in the last 5 minutes, oh
Okay.
no, nothing. But still, so yeah, so looking for that. Other cool thing is right now my Daihatsu is currently my daily driver, and it's scary, but it also warms my heart at the same time because it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I've driven that thing. It is pretty incredible little car. But your daily driver. So how long is your commute?
Um, so my commute is basically 60 miles round trip.
Okay.
So about
All
30
right.
there, 30 back. So it's a good ways away from where I live. Which is interesting in the charade because, well, right now it doesn't really matter because there's no AC in the charade. You just roll the windows down.
Sure.
That's fine. But the radio works if you want to listen to just AM, and it only comes out of one speaker. It's one of the only things that's actually broken on the car.
Okay.
But if you listen to a tape, it comes in stereo because it does have a really sweet tape player in it. So
Okay. So what tapes do you still have kicking around in the back seat of your charade?
well, I only have one tape in there right now. I have Boingo Alive, so
Okay.
I think it's fitting because it's of the era. I think that was from a concert in '86 or '87.
All right.
But that's the tape I have in there. So when I feel like listening to some music in the charade, I pop in Boingo Alive. It's awesome.
Sweet.
I need to find the rest of my tapes. They're somewhere. I have a good few of them still, and I'm sure they all still work. So it'd be great to find them and put them in there.
Yeah, definitely. Dig those up.
I got
Dig
it.
those up.
I got it. So
Yeah.
what about you? What's been going on?
I got a new belt. That's pretty interesting.
Ooh.
I know that's not car related, but I'm actually really proud of this purchase. It's one of those crazy ratcheting belts where you loosen it and then you just, kind of like makes that cool sound. I
Oh,
I just
that
had
is
to
cool.
bring that up because it's sort of a life changer thing right there. Like
Yeah,
infinite adjustability of my
infinite
belt for my pants.
adjustability.
Yes.
It's funny. I've been having belt problems myself. I had a really good belt. I loved it, and then I don't know. It got wet. I was in the rain or something like that, and then it was not my favorite belt anymore because it didn't
Okay.
feel the same. So
Well, you gotta check out these ratcheting belts. I got it on Amazon for, I don't know, not very much money. Yeah. Tip for anybody out there that it's my problem is, I sit down, I gotta loosen it, stand up, and then my pants fall down. So ratcheting belt,
ratcheting
it's a
belts.
life changer. Yeah.
I was
I
gonna.
know, not car related, not travel related, but I just thought I'd share that
Yeah,
with
no,
everybody.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Always
Yeah.
good information to find a good belt.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, moving on from that little tidbit, what do we want to talk about today? We should talk about maybe have you gone on any I went on a little trip.
Yeah.
I went on a little adventure.
All right.
Took the family up the California coast to San Simeon, which is about halfway between LA and San Francisco, and it's known for the Hearst Castle, mansion built by William Randolph Hearst. But I didn't really care about that. We went up there to basically stare at the ocean and look at elephant seals.
Oh, cool, cool.
Yeah,
Have you been into Hearst Castle before? Have you done the tour?
I have not. I have not done that.
It's pretty cool. I've done it before. One time, and it was in the early 2000s. Don't get me wrong. The the mansion and the grounds themselves is absolutely amazing. I mean, it's a California landmark, but for a car enthusiast, the one thing that you will notice, and I think it's been mentioned before on various other podcasts, the driveway going up
Mm,
to that house, well,
yeah,
mansion.
sure.
Oh my goodness. It probably maybe 2 miles,
Hmm.
maybe 3, and it twists, it undulates, and the whole time you're driving up there, you're like, "Man, I really wish they had a big parking lot at the top so I can bring my own car up here," but instead I'm in this giant tour bus that
Yeah.
takes you up there. But yeah, other than the massive driveway, if you're in the area, definitely check it out. It is pretty neat to see. If I recall correctly, there's the indoor and an outdoor pool, and the outdoor pool was modeled after a Roman, like some I'm not quite sure. I apologize for that, but there's some sort of a Roman pool or a piece of inspiration that it was made from, and it is just breathtaking to see. And you just want to go swim in it, but nobody's allowed to swim in
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool though.
Yeah, so
So,
we completely skipped right over that. Sounds like it would have been cool to check out, but yeah, we spent most of our time outside, kind of drizzly, kind of half raining, half spitting, kind of weather. But uh, got a lot of time staring at elephant seals, kind of just laying there on the shore. Occasionally, some of the males will get up and cause little fights here and there, but most of the time we were there was just cute elephant seals staring at us. And now,
nice.
we took our daughter down up there, so we wanted her to experience that. Um, yeah, and there's a lot of nice little towns along the way up there. We
Mhm.
actually stayed in a little town called Cambria, which is mostly sort of a tourist destination, but a couple good restaurants there. Um, and we did. My wife is a really good bird photographer, and as a hobby, and we spent some time at the San Simeon State Park. It's a great place to if you're into birds. I don't know anything about birds, but my wife likes to take photos of them, and it's a great place to do that. Yeah, it was a nice, relaxing trip. My daughter, my 21-month-old daughter, decided she didn't really want to sleep much, which kind of made it interesting. But but yeah, because we stayed there for a few days. But yeah, good. It's a wonderful drive along PCH. Really beautiful scenery. Yeah, and lots of elephant seals if you're into that kind of thing.
Well, cool, cool. Did you how
Yeah,
with PCH, how where did you grab it? Like, where did you start driving up it and to that? Because I've been there before to the Cambria area, and I remember I believe it was like in Paso. I'm not going to say it right. Paso Robles, however you say it. I You can
sure.
cut across there to one and take one up,
Yeah,
but I know you can
we
start it sooner.
yeah, we took 101 to San Luis Obispo, and that's
Okay,
that's about where we caught the one. And then from there it passes through Morro Bay, Pismo Beach, a few other places, Cambria, San Simeon. Yeah, so that's where we caught it. You can take it a little bit further, but we were trying to get up there relatively quickly.
got
So
it, got it.
yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
Highway 1 is an absolute beautiful drive. I've done it a couple times going up to Monterey, and oh my goodness,
yeah,
that's just an absolute jewel of a road that we
yeah,
have here. It's just so picturesque. I love it.
yeah. It's one of the best roads in the country for sure, at least.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I'd agree with that.
yeah,
Totally.
when there's not a huge landslide like blocking everything.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. That's been a problem because of all the rain we've been having, which we needed and we need,
sure.
but it's causing a lot of road issues.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So I think the idea of a little road trip is pretty cool, but the adventure in a car is always, you never know what's going to happen. So I think that's a kind of a good lead off into what we want to talk about this week, don't you think?
Yeah. That would be a great place to kind of dive into it. So we talked about this a little bit before this episode. I sort of thinking about the idea of the concept of car karma. So, if you look at Google defining the word karma, it's a sum of a person's actions in this and previous states of his existence, viewed as deciding their fate in future existences. Um, so basically, I was thinking about this idea of car karma, and mainly because throughout my life, I've owned about 35 cars over the years, and I do feel like I have just bad car karma. Many of those 35 cars have caused me a ton of grief and anguish and physical pain. But I don't know. I guess before we dive into all this idea, I guess it's important to keep in mind that most of my cars have been incredibly inexpensive pieces of crap. So there's that. But in general, what do you think about this whole idea of car karma? Is it a real thing, or do I just have bad luck, or am I just buying terrible vehicles?
Um, I think it's
And,
definitely
and like how does it work? How does it fit? Because I have a lot of stories, but I'm curious to see you've owned fewer cars than I have, so I'm
sure.
curious to see how this idea of car karma fits you.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think definitely it's a real thing for sure. Um, I've last week I know I was having issues counting how many cars I've had, but I did count and I have had 8.
Okay.
So
Yep.
that is my total where I'm sitting at
Hmm.
right now. But I was thinking about how many of those over the course of my ownership of those 8 cars, when have I had bad car karma? And I thought about it and I have 2 examples.
Okay.
That's it.
So, so
So,
you so you have good car karma is what you're
well,
saying.
I would I believe I do, um,
Okay. Yep.
but that kind of leads up into another thing that's gone on over the past week. So,
Okay.
um, yeah, I think with me, I mean, they're not even that bad of examples, but
Okay.
like one of them is literally me running out of gas in my Volkswagen Beetle when I was in high
Okay.
school, which isn't
Yeah.
a bad thing. The story around it was more comical than anything
Yeah,
because
well, I mean,
that was
anytime something bad like that happens, you always have a good story around it, you
right,
know?
right.
Yeah.
Um, but kind of everything turned just this past weekend actually. And I
Okay.
had my first instance of, ooh, this isn't good. This is the car gods not smiling down upon me.
Okay, so we know it's not regarding the Daihatsu.
Oh no, 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 no.
No,
It's not.
that car is bulletproof.
It is. It's been a great
Yeah.
car. It's been an amazing car.
So what's going on?
So, well, it's kind of funny because I believe a couple Hello Road episodes back, there was a quote that you said that I
Uh-huh.
basically was there's no such thing as a cheap BMW. So, with that in mind,
Okay.
back in January, I decided that I didn't want to have a car payment anymore. So, I looked for a somewhat fun car that I could get and replace my perfectly fine daily driver Subaru Outback I had, but just didn't want the car payment anymore. So
Sure.
I came across a car that I thought I knew enough about it that I'd feel comfortable purchasing it, especially with the high
Mhm.
mileage on it. And as I said earlier, I have about a 60-mile a day, or at least workday round trip commute. So it needed to be somewhat reliable. So in my infinite wisdom, I bought a 2003 E46 325i.
Well, and I feel a little bit guilty about this because I remember you saying that you were sort of inspired by my purchase of an E46. So go on.
No guilt, no guilt, no
Okay.
guilt at all. This is part of the fun, and the best part about it is the good story that came, through it. So
Okay, there is a happy ending,
yeah,
maybe?
oh yeah, there's a
Okay,
happy
okay,
ending.
we're getting there, we're
We're
getting there.
we're
All
getting
right,
there.
all right.
So
Go
I
all right.
bought the car. It was a great car. Relatively cheap. These cars are basically at the bottom of their depreciation curve.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, manual transmission, so that was cool. I'd been driving that Outback, which was an automatic, as my daily, and it was sucking my will to live. I only had my
Hmm.
Charade as my manual driven, or my manual transmission car. So BMW, everything was fine. I put a little bit of money into it. It needed a new corner lens. I changed that. It needed a new emblem. I changed that. It needed a new
Yep.
shift boot. These little things, I'm just, little happy things, easy projects to do that make the car happy and make it more enjoyable to
Sure.
drive. Yeah. So everything's going great with it. Just this past weekend, well, I guess I can say it was the weekend before that. I was in a drive-through, and
Okay.
it has, walls right next to you, and as I'm next to the wall, I hear kind of a ticking noise, like a tick 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 tick, and I'm like, that doesn't sound normal, and didn't think too much about it. I got home and I heard it. It wasn't too bad, so okay. It is what it is. It's probably a tensioner because they fail all the time on the cars.
Yeah.
So getting ready to budget to get a new tensioner and get time to put that on and everything, but the sound got progressively worse.
Over the course of how long did it get?
About the past week,
Okay.
the past week
All
and a
right.
half, it's getting worse.
Okay.
It's starting to sound like a diesel. Okay, this is something more. So I look into it, and it turns out that there is what BMW refers to. I don't know if this is what it's called all throughout the automotive industry, but it's called a bearing ledge that the camshafts sit in.
Hmm.
And what happens is the little hydraulic lifters are in the very bottom of it. So the camshaft sits in this bearing ledge, it spins, the little lifters are under it. Over time, the metal on the bottom of the ledge and also on the lifters can wear and cause it to make a ticking sound. So it's not necessarily a catastrophic failure that could happen. It's just more of an annoyance and kind of an embarrassment thing, because I would be sitting next to
Sure.
somebody at a stoplight, and I would hear my car, kind of the sound reverberating off of, their car, and it would just be, oh, I'm driving a diesel BMW.
Sure. I mean, you could. I find a perfectly good solution for this is just to change the badge on the back of your vehicle. Just find a D
The D, yeah.
and swap out the I with a D.
Yeah.
You're all good.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you're done.
and it would be
You could still be driving this car today.
I could be.
Yeah.
Um so I had to think about this one a bit, and after talking about it with my wife, we got a quote on how much it was going to cost to repair it, and I'm pretty handy with a wrench, but this was a little out of my
Yeah.
wheelhouse of ability, just because it involved the timing chain and holding the timing chain and not dropping the timing chain in the case, and causing all sorts of stuff, which I'm not necessarily the most I don't have the most finesse when I work on cars. There tends to be a lot of clumsy mistakes I do, so that would have been bad.
Yeah.
So, the overall quote for the parts alone was basically half of what I paid for the car,
Yeah.
and I thought about it, and I was like, I like the car, but I don't love the car. My intention was to only keep it for maybe 6 months to a year and then
Sure.
move on to something else fun.
Yeah.
Um, so that just accelerated it. So we sold it. It left.
Okay.
It left on Monday.
Okay.
So the new
Yeah.
buyer, they know about it, but they know BMWs, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no problem." I'm like, "Okay,
Sure.
have fun." So,
Yeah.
and
So how long did you own the car then? It was
it was
you
2 months,
2 months.
2 months. It was
Alright.
the shortest amount of time I've ever owned a car. So the car karma thing with this one is, I feel like I did my due diligence with this BMW. I gave it a new shift knob. I gave it, a new corner light.
You
I
tried to put some love into
I
it, try to
did.
show
I
yeah.
did. I put
Yep.
new front brakes on it, and
Mhm.
I gave it all this love, and it just came right back and bit me in the butt. So
Yeah.
there's really no such thing as a cheap BMW. That's the takeaway I have with it.
Sure. And if, I guess my E38 that I have was pretty cheap for what it is,
Mhm.
and somehow, I have no idea how, that car has been incredibly reliable. However, I'm constantly waiting for it to just one day have a catastrophic explosion or some sort of huge failure that causes the car to just instantly fall apart. So yeah, I totally get you.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, sometimes you gotta that's hard is when you have a car that is known to be problematic and you just have that looming sense of dread in the
Yeah,
back of your
you
mind,
know
like,
something is gonna happen soon.
and you just don't, and you take chances. It's like, okay, well, I gotta drive to this place tonight, and maybe tonight will be the night that whatever part it is or whatever known failure is gonna happen happens.
Sure. Well, I guess it was good that you pretty much knew you owned the car for 2 months. That was enough time for you to realize that this wasn't a lifetime car for you, that you weren't gonna hold on to this one forever.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Now,
It
I'm so now with it, I was thinking about it. I would have paid for the repairs on it if this would have been a super low mileage, like 330i with a ZHP package and
Sure.
just one of the super desirable ones. Then yeah,
This was kind of a base.
it
Was this a base
it
325?
was super base. The only option
Yeah.
it had was the automatic AC. Everything else, base. So I've moved on from it. So
Sure. And how did it I guess in the grand scheme of things, was there a pretty big loss in the sale of this, or did
no, actually,
kind of break even,
oh,
or
yeah, pretty much broke even on it. I mean,
that's not bad.
yeah, I did
Yep.
put some money into it with the brakes and doing those little, interior modification not modifications, but just refresh a little bit with some of the stuff. So yeah, pretty much broke even with it, so we're good. So off to the next thing.
The next thing. Yeah,
Mhm.
well, yeah, I guess we'll have to that maybe that's a future episode of what's on our wish list, but
Yeah, yeah. Yep,
yeah.
hopefully by next week, we can, have a quick little blurb about it.
Next week. What?
Yeah, it might happen soon.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to be surprised about this. We won't talk about this
Alright.
yet. Okay. Um yeah, so car karma. So your car karma up until recently has been incredibly good, and all it took was one BMW E46 to kind of ruin that for you. I mean, has it ruined BMW for you, or is
N
this
no, I
okay?
don't think it
Yeah.
has. I think it would be, if I was to do it again, I would get something that's more classified as a project versus this is my transportation to get to and from work and to
Yeah.
move my kids around.
Sure.
You know, if that was the case, like I said, if I was to find like a really nice condition 330i with a ZHP package and all the bells, everything that I would want on the car, then
Yeah.
that's something you keep. At least that's what I would keep,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think 2 months is a pretty good amount of time to really kind of figure out if this is gonna be the car
Yeah.
for you. I also have an E46 330 Ci. It's an automatic, unfortunately, but I bought it from a coworker, and he just wanted to unload it, and I really just did not like the car for the first. I'm an idiot. I bought it without really driving it or anything. I just said, "Hey, I'll buy your car. What the hell?" Um, I do that often, which is not great. But uh, I really just did not like the car for about the first month that I owned it. Just I didn't like the seating position. I didn't like the sound of the exhaust. I mean, the automatic was not that great. I was just sort of driving it to and from work. But once I finally took it on some back roads and really tried to push it a little bit, then it sort of clicked. And I was like, okay, yeah, I actually do like this car.
Mhm.
The automatic is still kind of a deal breaker. It should have been a deal breaker, keeping me from buying it, but it didn't exactly work out that way. But I can totally get that. Yeah, 2 months is a good amount of time to really try it out. You just need a 2 month test drive period for any car you're purchasing.
Yeah. Oh,
Yep.
that would be great if that was the way
Yep.
it always worked without having to pay for it. Just, oh yeah, just take it for 2 months and
Sure.
see if you like it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That would be
Yeah.
awesome.
I just need to find people that are willing to trade cars for 2 months,
Oh
and
yeah,
then there you go.
that would work.
Um, but anyway, car karma. I feel like I could probably talk for like 5 hours about my car karma. So I uh I should probably go through. I actually, having owned a lot of cars, I kind of sometimes forget which ones I own. So I made this handy little infographic that I posted on my Instagram page, so I can kind of remind myself, oh yeah, I forgot I did own that. um, but looking back, my fourth car, well, I guess I'll start with the absolute worst. The absolute worst car in terms of just things breaking at the worst time. It was
Right.
the fourth car that I ever owned, which was a 1987 Volkswagen Scirocco 16 valve. It didn't help that I bought well, actually, the car only had 98,000 miles on it when I bought it. So, it wasn't, and it was only 10 years old at that time.
Mhm.
So, or maybe nine. Uh, so in my mind, I felt like, oh, this car's not too old. It doesn't have that many miles on it, but and also, I guess the other thing is I was a dumb kid, didn't really know much about fixing up cars. But I just figured this, wouldn't be too hard to kind of make this thing work. But this car, like by leaps and bounds, it was the most unreliable vehicle I've ever experienced in my life. And I've owned 35 cars, and this is just like not even like it's not at the top. It's like a mile above the top.
An unmovable first place.
Yes, it's never gonna get below first place for how much pain this car caused me. So I'll just start off. I bought it. It's probably a stupid idea, but I didn't know. I bought it from a crappy little dealer. There wasn't Yelp back then, so I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy this from this crappy little dealer. And I bought it. I was delivering pizza for Domino's at the time, and maybe not such a great idea to buy a Scirocco 16 valve to deliver pizza in, but it sounded like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So so yeah, I had it for a day, not even a day. I probably had it for like 12 hours. And as I was delivering pizza, um timing belt broke
Oh.
and bent. I don't know if it bent all the valves in the motor, but at least two. But luckily, I was parked. I just started it up. I was about ready to leave with some pizzas in my car, and it just died right in the parking lot. So that was maybe some good car karma. But yeah, so I had it for less than a day, and the engine was all messed up.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and then I had a crappy warranty on the thing that the guy provided, so I brought it back to this shady dealer. He had it for like 4 months. I got it back. It was not fixed. It was all completely messed up. I had to take it to another dealer or another little independent shop to kind of get it all sorted out, and that cost me. I was just a teenager. I didn't have a whole lot of money, but it was like $1,500, almost $2,000 to kind of get this thing going again. And eventually, I took the original seller to small claims court, and I won, but I never was able to collect because the guy closed his dealership and skipped town.
Oh,
So
boy.
this guy, I don't know, this guy owes me a lot of money still. I'm gonna have to track him down. So that was just like the first day of car karma with this thing. Like that. There was so many other things. I wish I could do a Cliff's Notes version of all of the things that happened to me with this car. I will give it credit. Once I got it sort of fixed up, I decided, you know what? I'm gonna try to drive this thing across the country, across the entire United States, and it made it all the way to California without much incident. Which so I have to give it credit for that. Um, but when I drove it back to Massachusetts, where I was living, back to my parents' house at the time, um, so many things kind of unfolded and transpired on the way home.
It's almost like it didn't wanna go back. It's like, "No, I belong out
No,
here."
in California, exactly. Don't take me back to the land of snow, sleet, and salt.
Oh, boy.
Uh, well, I mean, I guess the couple of things that I just thought were hilarious that I look back now and they're funny. They drove me nuts at the time, but driving back, it would start to slip out of fifth gear. Um, so I had this system where I had uh, in the passenger seat, I had this little rope. So I had one side tied to the shift knob. So once I got into fifth gear, I would reach over and then tie the other side to my glove box. So that would kind of like hold it in fifth gear. So that worked up until like New Mexico, and then it started pop, and then it would pop out even more, and then it started popping out of fourth gear. So from about, um, geez, I think it was maybe from like Kansas all the way to Massachusetts, I was driving in like third gear. At that point, I was just like, I'm done with this car. I'm just going to ruin it. So I drove it at like 80 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour, just in third gear the whole way. Um, Oh, and then I like there's all these little things that I forgot. I got stuck in Albuquerque because the fuel pump died and the distributor died at the same time. So I was stuck in Albuquerque for a couple days as we got that sorted out. I had like all my stuff, like I was moving across the country, so I had all my stuff, and so I had to take everything out and have that replaced. I feel like I probably had to. It's embarrassing, but I think I had to call my mom and say, "Hey, can I get like $400, please? Because my Scirocco broke down again." Yeah.
Oh,
Um, but it did make it back to Massachusetts. The axles were going towards the end, like it was just like, oh, it was awful. It was so bad. It was almost falling apart by the time I got it back. I mean, I
wow.
have to give it credit because it did make it.
Yeah,
Um,
it did.
and this is so, me ranting on for the last 10 minutes or so, that's like about 4% of of the things that have gone wrong with this car.
Oh my goodness.
Um, yeah, and it's just one of those things where I didn't have the knowledge. Still don't have the knowledge to fix it. And yeah, it was such a letdown because I passed this dealership every day for so long. Be like, oh my God, look at that beautiful red 16 valve Scirocco. I can't, I love that. I just loved it. I had to have it.
They're beautiful cars.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
beautiful cars. I love them too, but I've heard stories, and now I've
Yeah.
heard this story.
Sure. Well, and the funny thing is like there's one, I don't know if it's still there now, but there's one on Los Angeles Craigslist for like $3,500, and which is I paid 3,000 for mine back in 1996 or whenever the heck that was.
Mhm.
I'm sort of tempted, like, you know what? Let's test this car karma theory. I'm going to buy this Scirocco 16 valve and see if it bites me in the butt again.
It can't get any worse, can it?
No, I don't think so. But yeah, so that was a tough one.
Yeah. Oh my
I loved it. Was a fun car to drive. I loved the idea of that car. Just super, it was so cool. So I mean, like, especially to be like, 17, 18 years old and have this thing. Um, but yeah, it was not a good experience.
yeah. Wow. I mean, that is definitely quite a good example of the car karma. I mean,
Yeah,
all the money you put into it, and it'll still do it. But I still think the you were on the good side of it there because you drove it to California and drove it back, albeit it broke a few times,
sure.
but it did it. I mean, that's
It did it.
so. The,
Yeah, and I guess the thing is, I always sort of feel like, you know, it's very rare that you're going to have like a really, like, I look back at getting stuck in Albuquerque. I had a great time. We had a cop that came behind us and just at the nick of time that helped us out and pushed the car, to the side of the road. And he helped us figure out what the best Volkswagen mechanic in Albuquerque was, and we brought the car there. And the people at the dealership drove us to the hotel. There was so many good things about it, so many like little tidbits of stories that I remember that made, I look back at those memories fondly, even though it was distressing at the time. Just because you're not likely to have like an amazing story like that in a reliable car.
yeah, that's true. It's one thing to drive across the country, without just and see the things, but if you're part of the adventure is getting there and the stories that go along with the car for sure, I think. And I
Yeah.
mean, this is just a perfect example of that. I mean, had it been a super reliable, Honda or something like that, cool. The story goes,
Oh,
cool. We drove to
we
California and drove back and
yeah, we made it to our destination with no
with no
issues.
issues, which is cool and great. And
Yeah,
is,
exactly.
especially if you're traveling with children. But if you're a teenager and you're
Sure.
going out for this adventure, you got to have these kind of stories. You got it.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And I look back at all these, I've got a lot of them, and all of them, maybe except for one or two where there was a bad accident or something. I look back at all of them very fondly,
Mhm.
and part of the problem was I just didn't have the money.
Oh yeah.
You know, I didn't. I was kind of got myself in these situations where I couldn't afford to. I'm in Albuquerque, and I'm like, I don't. I'm stuck here. unless I, call my mom.
Mhm.
And it was it was embarrassing, but I eventually got home.
Yeah, no, and, sometimes that's, we gotta do. We have to go down to um, that road that you don't wanna go down, "I gotta call my mom to get me,"
Yeah.
or whatever the case may be, that's happened to me a couple times too when it's like, "Okay,
Sure.
yeah, I can't afford to fix this, I need some help," but
Yeah.
that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So, cool,
And that was just one of the 35
one of the
vehicles that I
35.
that and that one was definitely the worst. I've had a few other weird ones that were sort of more surprising. Like I had an 87 Tercel. That was my third car that I owned
Mhm,
that just threw a rod at about 110,000 miles, which seemed very odd. But looking back, I realized that, oh yeah, the time that my sister borrowed the Tercel and drove it for a week without putting oil in it,
mm.
that might have done it. So maybe it wasn't exactly karma, but more of just I shouldn't have let my sister borrow the car.
True. That could be the case. I mean, because
Yeah.
87, that thing should still be running and just past its
Today,
engine break-in period today.
sure.
So,
Yeah.
because that's what they do. They just
Yeah.
run and run and run. Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's another fun one that I could have real fast. It'd be an interesting story to share. A good example of me doing everything I could to pamper the car and love the car to death, and it still let me down. It was my Mini Cooper. I had a
Okay.
2003 um, Cooper, not a supercharged one. It was the naturally aspirated one,
Yep.
5-speed manual transmission. It was actually
And you did some autocrossing in this,
I
right?
did. That was the
Okay.
first
Yep.
car I took autocrossing, the first car I took on a racetrack. It was, a car that through the Mini community, I met a lot of my friends that are some of my very best friends today, so it was a very, very important car in my life.
Yeah.
Um, but it did let me down once, and
Okay.
it was not good. So, mine had the 5-speed manual transmission in it, of course, and probably 3 or 4 years into the ownership of the car, um, the rumblings on the internet started talking about people's transmissions failing in the cars, and I
Mm.
was like, that's not good." So, I continued on as I would, and I loved that car so much. I got autocrossed, there was lots of fun modifications I did to it, I learned a lot from that car.
Yeah.
But one day I was on my lunch break from the job I was at the time, and I was driving to get some horrible fast food somewhere or something, and it's taken off from a stoplight. I was the first car to go, and when I put it in first gear and let out the clutch, nothing happened. It just
Okay.
revved and revved. I was like, "Oh no!" It was just no warning signs or anything. Just nothing was there. Um, so yeah, it karma got me in the butt on that one because it just happened. The transmission had failed. The main input shaft on the transmission actually sheared itself clean off the transmission. It was
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, but took it to the at that time there was only a couple like reputable mini repair shops that weren't the dealers, so I took it there. I was without the car for about 4 months while they had to
Yeah.
source a part for it because it was uncommon for that part to fail on it, and was left really without a car. I had to share with my then girlfriend, who is now my wife. Actually lost my job at that place because I couldn't get to it.
I know.
So I was basically unemployed because of my Mini Cooper.
That is
Yeah,
awful.
it was a hard time, but
That
it was a great day when I
that's a
it was
yeah,
a great day when
that's a rough
it
one.
was, but it was a great day when I got the car back and loved it. until I eventually traded it in. But yeah,
And you
karma.
trade that in for the Outback, or is that something else?
No, I actually traded that in for a 2011 Mazda 2 that I had, which,
Ah, okay.
which was my uh, equivalent Mini Cooper, but made in Japan.
Sure.
so, so that was that. So that was another of my car karma things. You do what you can. Like, I even when I go shopping, I'll take and push the shopping carts and put them in their, the shopping cart receptacles because I don't want them to
Sure.
hit a car. I do everything I can to appease all these car
Sure.
gods, and I feel like I've gotten off pretty clean. But then I think about it and I'm like, well, the three cars that have kind of let me down with the Bug, which was really just running out of gas, so I don't really count it.
Sure.
I don't count it. The Mini and the BMW, they all have one thing in common. They were German cars.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just I'm not meant to have one, even though I still have my Beetle. But it, like as we said, it doesn't. It's currently just a storage unit in my parents' garage. So we'll
Sure.
see when it gets up and running again.
Well, yeah, that's sort of interesting to think about too. I gotta kind of go back. So obviously, Scirocco was German. We had a 2001 Volkswagen Passat V6 for a while. That car gave us some pretty big problems too.
Mhm.
We don't need to get into that. I'm just trying to think of what other German cars I've owned. Obviously my E38, which somehow has been reliable. And then my E46, which has already cost me, had the car a couple months. It's already cost me over $1,000 in repairs. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's the thing with the German cars,
yeah,
though, is I mean they all drive extraordinarily nice. They're great driving cars, and even the sportier ones with like the stick shift and everything. It's great fun. It's that trade off you got to pay for. Like I said with my BMW, had it been something different, I would have put my money into it because I like it. I like the way it drives, and
sure.
glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way it is.
Yeah. Well, maybe next week we should talk about our reliable cars because
Mm.
I've had a few of those. That's like I can't forget about those. When I think about car karma, I got to remember my Scion XB,
Hmm.
um, uh, my original Chevy Nova that I had back in the day, the Toyota version, not the actual GM
Hmm.
version. Yeah. So there's maybe I'm selling myself a little short here in terms of my karma. Maybe it's not so bad. I just have a few really really traumatic experiences mixed in with like probably some pretty reliable vehicles.
Yeah, yeah. That trauma of some like the poor Scirocco, that can trickle down for a while, and you think about it like, I wonder if this one's going to strand me in New Mexico when I'm driving through it next time,
Yeah.
So, oh, car karma.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, make sure appease the car gods. Put your shopping carts where they're supposed to go. That's always my biggest thing. I think about every single time I'm out with a shopping cart, even when it's pouring
yes.
rain and okay, I'm gonna go put the shopping cart away, and everybody looks at me like everybody just
Yeah.
puts it on the right in front of you. No, put it away.
Do the right thing.
Do
Do the right
do the
thing.
right thing.
Yep.
You don't want to be the one who door dings somebody else's car. Well, cool.
Yeah. Car karma. So I mean that's probably a good place to wrap that one up. I feel like we have to revisit that one at
Oh
some
yeah,
point in the future because
the flip the
because
flip side.
if you buy another BMW, yeah, we're gonna have some more stories
Oh
here.
yeah,
I'm sure my E46 is gonna cost me even more money than it's cost me now. So, yeah, we'll have more of that.
we will.
More of that.
We definitely will. Especially if I get, because I think if I was going to get another BMW, I'd have to spend a lot more money than I want to spend. But one of my dream BMWs would be an E39 M5, highly coveted car. They're amazing. I've driven a couple of them. Um,
Yeah,
it's always been on my list of cars I really want to own one day. But you kind of see the good and the bad side of it. The good is that wonderful sounding engine, the 6-speed manual transmission, the 400 horsepower.
and they're beautiful.
Yeah, they're
That's like
gorgeous.
the pinnacle of BMW design is that
Yes,
era.
I totally agree. They're just beautiful cars to me. But then there's the flip side, which is like ignition coils that can do things that cost a lot of money, and all sorts of other fun little things that they can do. So, yeah, it's one
Yeah.
of those things. You buy it as a toy, as an investment, or not an investment, but something that you want to keep for a
Well,
bit because they're actually appreciating in value. It was a couple years
yes.
ago, $10,000-$15,000 got you an okay one, but that is not the case anymore. From what I saw, you're looking in the 20 to 25 range, I think, for a decent example, and pretty much all of them have 100,000 miles on it. And if they don't,
Sure.
they're probably a lot more money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one too, because it's kind of, unless you have a lot of you get large disposable income, or you get a bunch of other cars you want to try to sell off or something. That's a lot of money to be spending on a car that came out what, when was that thing
Uh,
out? 20 years
yeah,
ago?
but just
Approximately?
about 20. Yeah, it was 2000. It
Yeah.
released as a 2000 model. I think in late 99 is a 2000 model.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
but man, what a car that thing is. Oh, they're
I
so
know.
awesome.
I'd like to own one of those for a couple
A
months.
couple months.
And then just like I'd find the right sweet spot of, okay, this car is going to operate properly within these couple
Mhm.
months, and then sell it before it breaks.
It's some
I don't know how you do that. I would love to find a way to figure out how to do
right.
that.
That would be
Yes.
ideal too. Kind of the same situation in this. I'm in the same boat for like with like the E60 M5 with the V10.
Yeah.
I mean, I've there's many a video on YouTube of oh, look
Sure.
what has happened to it now. But man, when those things are working, oh, they are so sweet, so sweet. You can't go wrong with a V10. Something you won't see
Yeah.
nowadays unless you're buying a supercar.
Sure.
But that's the complete opposite end of my love for
I know
scrappy
you're
little
driving
crowd.
Daihatsus and Minis and Mazda 2s. We're
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's you gotta have a palate, a large palate
Sure.
to enjoy everything that the automotive world has to offer. That's the
Totally.
way I look at it. So I think, yeah, we'll revisit this one for sure. So
Yeah, definitely.
maybe go into some of the more reliable cars, but we'll see. But
Well, you want to we did this thing last time with car spotting, where we talk about some kind of cool rides that we've
yeah,
seen on our travels.
totally.
What have you come across?
Well, I'm gonna I'm gonna cheat a little bit
Okay.
because I see this car once every 3 to 4 weeks. It's the same car because I don't think there's anything else. Well, I'm sure there is other ones out there like it, but just the fact that it's always in the same place at the same time leads me to believe that it's the same car.
Okay.
So in my commute home, when I'm maybe about a mile away from my house, a couple of the freeways here merge together, and when that happens, if I'm at that merge at the right place and at the right time, I come across this absolutely beautiful Alfa Romeo. I don't. I'm gonna take a crack at what model this is and the year. I'm gonna say this is a. It's a sedan. It's a 4 door Julia, probably sometime in the mid '60s, early '70s.
Mhm.
Um, it's this blue color, which is very nice to see. But the thing that always jumps out at me with this car is how fast it's going, because where these freeways merge is actually quite a steep hill, and it is always flying over that hill. And it sounds so awesome. I mean, Alfa Romeo has always made cars with I think their main emphasis is just make the engine sound absolutely bitchin', because that's what it does. This guy that's driving it is just probably doing close to 80 miles an hour going up over this hill. And it's a 4 door car. So I like 4 doors. I think I especially like 4 door sporty sedans is kind of like one of my design aesthetics I really, really like. And the fact that this
Mhm.
is this really sweet old Alpha with 4 round headlights in the front and that little center exit exhaust. Oh, it's so sweet. So I saw him today, which was great because I was like, cool, I can talk about this on the podcast tonight. But today it was raining, and
Okay.
I haven't seen the car since it's been raining, and it's been raining a lot here in Southern California, but he was still going just as fast up and over this hill, probably 80 miles an hour in the rain in this little scrappy Alfa Romeo. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this guy's really winning at life. He really is. I haven't had a chance to like really see the driver. I'm pretty sure it's the same person. It's
It's gotta
yeah,
be.
it's gotta be. And oh gosh, it just every time I see it, I'm like, oh, I roll the window down on the car. So today I was in the charade and it was raining. I was like, oh, and I'm just cranking the window down while it's raining
Yeah.
just so I can hear the engine go by. It's worth getting a little wet driving on the freeway with rain pelting you on the face just to I'll do that if I see a car on the street. I'm like, oh, I got to hear the engine real quick, and I'll roll the window down,
Yes.
regardless of the elements, just to hear it. So yeah, that's my sweet car, Alfa Romeo. I guess you can call it a Giulia, and
Was it a Julia? Yeah,
uh,
yeah. Or I guess we'll have to do a little,
a little more research there.
yeah.
Giulia, from what the Wikipedias have told me, what I'm pretty sure this car is. If that's
Because that one's kind of boxy. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page as well, and it's sort of a
Yeah, and there's actually a blue one in the picture if you're looking at the same one as I
yeah.
am. Yeah, that's the one. It's
Yes.
that's almost
Okay.
exactly like it, and it is so
All
sweet.
right.
It's
Yeah, so it looks like they made those between 62 and
oh yeah,
78. Yeah, all
I
right.
don't have my
Yep.
glasses on tonight. That's why I didn't see
Okay.
that.
All right. Well, I'm helping out. Yeah, come to the Hello Road podcast so we can read Wikipedia
Yeah,
pages for
I
everybody.
guess I could. Oh, yeah, I guess I
Cool.
can see it. Yeah, that's the funny thing with the Alphas though is the sound of the engine. And I don't know. Have you ever had a desire to own an Alfa Romeo?
The Montreal, that one, yes, Alpha. I'm trying to remember when those came out. That was
Is it
mid
mid
70s
'70s? I think.
approximately.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just love the way that car looks. I don't really know much about the performance of that car or the handling or price even. But I really really like that the way that car looks, especially the front end with those kind of weird slatted headlight
It's like
covers.
half
Um,
hidden when they're closed, and it's like they're kind of peeking.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah, that's just a cool looking car. I've never really been, I guess, uh, GTV's kind of a nice one that I like the look of them a lot. Um, but again, I don't really know much about alphas, and there's not one that's sort of just I absolutely have to have.
uh
Um, but yeah, Montreal is the one that pops into my head as, oh yeah, I would love to drive one of those.
yeah. The alphas are very very they're interesting, and I guess it was Jeremy Clarkson said that you're not a true petrol head until you've owned an Alfa Romeo, and probably easier over in Europe where they're much more abundant versus here. Except for
Sure.
now, we have the new Julias that are running around here, but
Sure. And that car is awesome.
yeah, I want to get behind the wheel of one of those to try it because I'm thinking that
I you totally have to. I rented one on Turo for my video that I did like last year, and I spent the whole day on Angeles Crest. It was amazing, so much fun. I mean, even obviously it's a automatic,
mhm.
but really really great handling car. Probably the best handling car I've ever
Oh
driven.
wow.
I mean, I obviously I'm not, I don't have I've owned a lot of crappy
Mhm.
cars. I've driven a lot of cars, but never nothing like super expensive.
Sure.
So out of my limited experience, it was definitely one of the best handling cars I've ever driven.
Yeah, I definitely got to get myself behind the wheel of one of those because I just know, maybe 10 years from now, we'll see how the depreciation works. It's going to be like, so I made this decision to buy this used Alfa Romeo Giulia, and we'll see how this goes. Um,
Yeah. No, I think that's a car you might.
excuse me.
I think that's a car you lease.
Yeah,
I would. I mean, maybe 10, 15 years from now when they're kind of poking around under 10 grand, maybe that's the time you give it a
pounce on
shot.
it
But
then.
yeah, I don't know. Doesn't seem like a good good move.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I'm thinking. I have a friend who's contemplating the idea of leasing one. He's a mechanic, and he only works. His shop is 3 miles from his house, so very limited time for things to go wrong on it. But he's really
Yeah.
contemplating it, so we'll see if he follows through with it. So cool. Yeah, alphas are. I've
Yeah.
I've wanted a couple of them, but I don't know if I'll ever drop the hammer on one. We'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see. They sound cool. They look cool, but it's kind of one of those things. Just like a, you look at it from a distance, kind of like you're on safari, and I love lions, but I'm not going to get close to it.
Yeah.
I'll watch it from here.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
stay right
it's going to bite
there.
you.
Don't bite me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of an alpha for me, for you.
Yes. Don't get too close, otherwise you will have no face
Yeah,
left.
yeah. In the alpha's
Uh,
case, your money will be gone.
yeah. Yes. So my car spotting is the thing that I saw is nowhere near as sporty, but I would argue that it's just as cool as an Alpha.
Okay.
So I saw, I guess I don't know exactly what year it is, but I would say it's probably maybe the latest generation of the Toyota Hiace.
Oh,
So if you're not familiar with a Hiace, it's a van, commercial van that I believe I thought it was only sold in it wasn't maybe only sold in Japan and other non-US markets. Maybe it's sold in Mexico. Maybe that's the reason why I saw it here. But um, and I didn't actually get a chance to see what license plate was on the thing to know where it came from. But I feel like it was a 2019 Toyota Hiace van, and it super cool looking. Just sort of kind of reminds me of what if you sort of kept the aesthetic of the 80s Toyota van, where there's really kind of no front end. Your legs are essentially the crumple zone. If you keep that idea and just sort of modernize it, that's sort of what it made me think of. Um, and vans are super cool. Hashtag van life. I thought it was pretty neat. I just was trying to figure out why it was here. If somebody imported it, maybe somebody brought it over just for I don't know, but it was cool to see. I've actually hadn't seen a high ace in person, so I was pretty excited about that.
yeah. Oh, that's definitely cool. Yeah, I mean, I can start talking about vans, and we can probably have a van episode just because
Sure.
I love them too, especially like Toyotas, and especially things like the mystical eggs, the wonderful Previa.
Oh,
Love that
Previas,
thing.
those are
I love that
great.
thing. Um, the
Also, another van where your legs are the crumple zone,
they
but
are.
yeah, just don't think. I actually saw. I went to. I went it's funny. I went to Legoland with my wife and kid a couple weeks ago, and I saw a woman pull up with this completely like pristine Previa. Had her whole family in the thing, and it was nice to see an old 90s van still being used as it's intended. You know, to just cart your kids around.
Exactly. I mean, those they're so when they were out, it was kind of a dorky car when it was, like, in its time, but now they've kind of taken their own sort of, own identity online, you can say. Everybody's kind of like, "Oh, yeah, these are super cool now," and I'm okay with that. I really am. I think that it's time for it to really shine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really
Yes, and they're just a very unique looking sort of egg of a vehicle that used to see everywhere. Now you're kind of like, oh wow, I haven't seen a Previa in a very long time. That's
Yes, on my drive, if I try to go on, I put myself on Privia Watch, I'll see one, I'm like, "Oh, there it is. Oh,
sure.
there's one." And I don't
Yep.
see 2 or
Yep.
3 on
There you
my
go.
commute, so they're still out there, but you just gotta
Hmm.
they just kinda blend in.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah.
cool. So,
Totally.
yeah, that high ace, that's definitely an interesting one. I think it was over here for a demo or something,
Yeah. I'm
but,
not sure. It doesn't seem like the kind of car you would ship over just to travel around in and then ship it back. It's but who knows? Maybe some people are weird. I would do that. So
yeah, I would do that. I would totally do that. Yeah, I'd ship my charade to Japan to drive it around, kinda like, Jason Camisa did with his Scirocco.
with his
He shipped it
yes.
over to Europe, right? And did a big old, track day at the Nürburgring with it. Yeah, I would.
Oh, we should figure out what would be like the absolute worst car to ship over to Germany and take on the Nürburgring. What a car that is not generally seen there. Maybe not worst car, but like what would be the weirdest possible thing you could do? I totally I think we have to try to find a way to do that.
Yeah. and do it like in real life and just go over there because I've always wanted to go. And
Oh
even
yeah.
if it's us driving a Toyota Previa on the Nürburgring,
Well, I think you've got it. It's got to be a
gotta be a
Previa.
Previa. Gotta be.
All right. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
very cool.
yeah.
So, um, kind of wanted to go over some of the upcoming events. We have some. I know this podcast is going to be released after some of these come out, but we got to talk about the upcoming event this weekend, this
Sure.
Saturday. We have Radwood at HooptyCon. You went to this.
Yep.
You went to
So
this last year, didn't you?
yep. So I up at Sonoma Raceway. I last year I drove my '88 Chevy Nova twin cam, which was a nice drive. I did a little caravan with Manuel Carrillo, automotive journalist. He drove a Polaris Slingshot. He didn't bring it into the Radwood show, but he was reviewing the car at the time, and it was very cold. He was very cold driving
The
that
one
thing up
with
there.
two wheels in the front, one wheel in the back, right?
Yeah, and just, you're just exposed to all the elements. And he got rained on, and
Oh, fun.
I was glad. I was glad that I had heat and a roof. But it was a fun drive up there, and had a ton of fun at. I mean, I have tons of fun at every Radwood that I go to. And for people that aren't aware, it's pretty much the coolest car show on earth for '80s and '90s cars. Um, and I have a lot of those, so it works out really well for me. And it's all cars that I remember as a kid, and I get super excited seeing these things. Seeing a lot of cars, they're like, oh my gosh, that the Dodge Spirit Turbo or something that you just like, wow, I haven't seen one of those in ages. You'll see stuff like that at
Okay.
Radwood. Also, plus you'll see Countachs and DeLoreans and all of the truly like cars people drooled over back in the day. But you'll also see the Sprint
The
turbos and
oddities.
all these,
The
yeah,
oddities.
all that
And
stuff.
that seems like at every event, there's always, there'll always be like a big one. Like they just had Austin a few weeks ago, and they had an F40 Diablo and a 959. So that was awesome. But
Yep.
and then at the LA show we had in December, we had the Vector, and we had
God, that
the
thing.
the
Yeah.
the Bugatti EB110. So there's always those, but like the Halo cars that you'll see, which is amazing to see them in person if you've never seen it before. But there's always the randomness that's there. Like at the Austin show this past weekend, they had the guy. He was at the LA show that had the Starion or the Conquest. I'm not sure which one it was. Um,
Hmm.
but he had been to, I think, the Philly show with it, the LA show with it, and then to the Austin show with it, which is just awesome. So, just to give, our listeners who aren't familiar with the show an idea of some of the lengths that some of the people that love the shows will go to. They drive all over the country to the shows and just have a blast. And,
Yeah.
and it's a great atmosphere, the 80s and 90s cars and culture too. So it's cool. It's just too much fun. So, and this
Yes,
one's at the
definitely.
HooptyCon, and that's a lemons race, right? Is it lemons that puts that on?
Sure. Yeah. It's 24 hours of lemons. Their race that they do up at Sonoma. And so there's Radwood. There's a few other, I think Gambler 500 will have a presence there, and a few others. But I'm primarily going to to see Radwood. And obviously I'd love to check out the lemons races
Yeah,
too.
totally.
Which is always, and there's plenty of rad era 1980s and 1990s cars in the race too. They're just maybe a little bit more beat up.
Yeah, exactly. Or themed so far that you can't tell what it is,
You can't tell what
like
it
a
is
MR2,
exactly.
first generation MR2 disguised as a Ferrari F40, or something
Sure.
of the like. Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
that's
So
this weekend.
yep. And obviously, yeah, this podcast will come out after it. But yeah, I'm not driving anything rad up there. I'm probably gonna go up with my brother in his new Impreza, so that'll be kind of boring. But I might be picking something up at the show, but we can talk about that in a future episode.
Ooh, stay tuned.
Yep.
So that's great. That's going to be a good time. I really, really wish I could make it up there. I was hoping that it would be a fun trip in the charade, but it just kind of got life in the way too much. I do want to get the charade up to the NorCal show this year. I think that would be fun to see how the charade does driving up and over the Grapevine and then through the Central Valley. It should be fun.
Sure.
Fun.
Yep.
So the weekend after that, we have the Driving While Awesome Coastal Range Rally Rewind. I think we might have this podcast up before that comes out, but
Yeah.
should be. Those are always fun. Those guys over at DWA are awesome, and they put on a really bitchin' rally a couple times a year. And you went on one before, right? You did
Yeah.
last year's Coastal Range,
Yeah.
right?
I did the Coastal Range Rally North with Brad Brownell. He's one of the founders of Radwood. It was a fun time. We drove a 1986 Porsche 944 Turbo with over 400,000 miles on the odometer.
Oh, that's
Yep. Yeah, only 400,000. And as far as I can tell, as far as we know, the engine has never been opened up, and somehow it's continued. It still runs, and it was tons of fun to drive. It's funny. Earlier in the episode, I talked about how the Giulia was the best handling car I've ever driven. I might have to take that back and say this 944 Turbo tops that. So much fun, interesting vehicle, and of course, yeah, the the route that they put together for this rally was great. The roads up there are just so amazing. Some of the best roads in the country are in Northern California. And yeah, really well put up, run event, and had tons of fun. So I might try to convince them to let me into their rally last minute for their rewind rally. We'll have to see. I'm not sure.
you could pull some strings, I think.
Yeah, it's like, hey, yeah, want me to be in your rally? I'll make cookies or
Well,
something.
yeah, I think they like they like beef jerky. If you
Oh yeah,
bring them beef.
that's true, because they had that whole discussion about how moist should your beef jerky be. It can't be too moist, can't be too dry, and I'll have to see if I can really try to figure out what is the right jerky that will allow me to get into this event.
If
All
their
right.
little sub area of their podcast is beef jerky, ours is belts. So we'll
Yeah,
state that going
yeah.
forward.
It's not as, yeah, I guess maybe not quite as cool as beef jerky, but well, we can make it
It's
work.
tasty, definitely.
Yeah.
So that takes us
Well,
through March. I mean, I've got it set up for everything, but I don't need to go through everything on my list. We will be
yeah,
adding things as they come. So look forward to that. Cool.
definitely.
Well,
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing what car you've got on your in your radar, and maybe I'll tell you about what car I've got on my radar next
yeah,
week.
if all goes well, I should have it this weekend, and
All right.
we'll be. It should be interesting. It should be fun. So
Okay.
cool.
Cool. Not an
It's not
E46.
a BMW. No, it's not.
Okay. Okay, I'm
No,
glad.
it's not.
All right. Well, does that wrap it up for
Yeah,
our second episode ever?
I think that was a very good sophomore attempt. So
Sure.
cool. That should wrap it up. So thank you everybody for listening. We appreciate it.
Yep.
And
Yep. And yeah, you can always check out my videos, youtube.com/hello road. Follow me on Instagram at Mr. Ethan Tufts, and you are on Instagram
at
at
charade_life. And I've been posting lots of fun Daihatsu things the last few days. So if you want to see some cool Daihatsu pictures, give me a follow or take a look at it. It's pretty cool. If you're a Daihatsu fan, and I think it's me and 6 other people. But we'll see.
yeah. Yeah. One other
Yeah.
thing. I'll just leave this right at the tail end of the episode for people that have made it this far. I might be giving a car away soon, but I'm just going to leave it at that.
What?
So, yep.
Oh,
So we'll have to find out later.
I think I'm excluded from this, right? I don't get the car.
Yeah, employees of the company, yeah, it doesn't work
Oh,
out.
well, I tried. Cool.
Okay.
Working
All
on
right.
that.
See you
Everyone.
later. All right.
Bye.
Bye.